and welcome to our final SBN News of 2020. We launched this show post Scottish International Week in October, and we've been delighted that it has been such a big hit with y'all. We still have spaces available for the start of 2021 for our members who want to join us for a chat and to share their business story, announcements, and upcoming events. So if you want a slot in the show, get in touch with either myself or Scott.
Yeah, and there's also been plenty going on this past week, even though we are in the run-up to Christmas. Our SBN Christmas Hamper is still full of exciting things like unique Scottish gifts, festive events, charitable fundraisers. Although we are getting closer to Christmas, there's still plenty of gifts that you can get in time. And you can also check out our Christmas playlist on Spotify. It's a collection of Christmas songs from bands and artists related to Scotland. And we're, of course, still opening our Advent calendar every day, so you can check that out too. There's been some events as well. There was a London Scottish House event earlier in the week, their coffee break, which featured our chairman Russell running through a workshop on how to develop your strategy for London in 2021. Our friends at Africa Scotland Business Network hosted an event earlier in the week as well, where they talked about a practical guide to marketing in Africa. Here's a hint: you have to be diverse. The continent's massive and there's 54 very different countries in it. Speaking of the SBN, Claire Alexander was interviewed in this week's episode of the SBN podcast series, which will be the last one of 2020. It also featured some festive wishes from the SBN ambassadors and the SBN team as well. You can catch all the episodes of that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, really. In terms of what's coming up next week, we are going to have some more light-hearted, fun content coming out. We've got some members who provided some songs. We've got some poems being read, some even Christmas cocktails. So keep an eye on our social channels to see that. And unfortunately, Kendra and I will not be joining you next week, as we'll be sitting down for our own Christmas feasts at the usual time the news comes out. And I imagine you'll all be watching that too. But as for today, we've got some exciting guests.
Yes, I'm delighted to welcome James Fleming, Managing Director of the Power Within training.
Hi, hello Kendra, hello Scott, How are you doing?
Hello James, it's great to have you on. Do you want to start by introducing yourself, telling us a bit about the Power Within training and the journey so far?
Absolutely. Are you sure you want to be doing this? Because I can talk. Yes, so Power Within training, we're quite a young company. We're 3.5 years old. We decided to set up the Power Within training because we seen a massive gap. I actually came back so I spent most of my career outside of the UK, and I used to come back quite a lot, and I noticed there was a big gap in the market between business coaching and training and development. I felt like a lot of training and development didn't meet the needs, the accountability needs that business owners and leaders really require to move them forward. And for example is, how many courses have we been on? We get this nice shiny black manual, we put it in the back seat of the car and we never look at it again. So I seen this massive gap in the market, and the Power Within training was born. Yeah, so that's kind of how we all started. It's run by me and my wife, so it's a family-run business. We have 6 employees now, and we have been growing during COVID, which is like...
So, as you say there, you're a fairly young company. You launched in 2017 and have been running workshops across the UK. So how have you been impacted by recent times, and how have you adapted your offering?
Oh, it was very, very scary, I've got to say. I mean, at the end, we probably had sitting on our books of courses planned. Now, we used to run, everything was face-to-face. So we'd get into, although we did a lot of oil and gas, obviously my background is oil and gas, we used to do a lot of oil and gas, leadership and sales training. And we had probably about over 100 grand in training booked in for 2020. And on this kind of, let's say around the 26th or 25th, 27th of March, everything disappeared. And we had no income, because even all our other products, the courses that we run, were all stopped as well, because we ran them in hotels. So we had a very scary realization of everything we've built. We felt like it was falling apart. And me being me and my wife being my wife, we run the business together, we play off each other. We decided to go out for a run. We like to go out and keep fit. So we went out for a run, and it was on a Wednesday afternoon, and we came back in and I know you can't see, but right in front of me, there's a massive goal board. We're big goal setters because it keeps us very focused. And we came in and we looked at the board, and I thought, imagine if someone said to us 3 years ago that you could start again today, knowing what we know, the people we know, the credibility we've created, the LinkedIn profiles and people we've connected with, all of that knowledge and experience, and got to start today. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing? So we did. We actually cleaned the board off and thought, okay, knowing what we know in the world that we now live in, what can we do different? So we invested every penny we had in going digital, and it has paid off unbelievable.
That's it. That's incredible. And your hard work and your courses have been endorsed by SQA, Skills Development Scotland, and so on. And you've also been recognised by a number of Business Excellence Awards. So what is next? What's looking at in 2021?
Oh, you've got me excited now. So we have just recently, now that we, as you can probably see in the background here, motivational intelligence company. So that's a term that we use. So you've got IQ, EQ, and MQ. MQ is motivational intelligence. So it's the third level intelligence. We all kind of know it as mindset, but it's taking mindset to that next level. So kind of mindset is what's happening here. Motivational intelligence is here and here. So joining that emotion and motivation together. So we have been running kind of motivational intelligence leadership workshops for a long time now. But we read that during that process, in March, it was, I get into April, kind of April, May time, and when we were doing this new research about what was next, McKinsey and Company had released a report around change. Now they said that the world, now this is pre-COVID first, so not post-COVID, the world is changing 10 times faster than ever before in history. It's creating a 300 times larger scale and a 3,000 times more impact in today's business community. So we're looking at this report, and we're reading the report, we're thinking, how can we adapt? Now we're in COVID, how can we adapt our main product offering? So we started to look at ways in which because if people are feeling the same way we were feeling, and businesses are really starting to, be affected, and people are working from home, and we don't have that motivation and inspiration and people round about us to keep us going. So we decided to adapt one of our key programs, and it's called Leading with Motivational Intelligence. So we approached the SQA back in October, and we said, look, we've readapted our program. We presented it to them, and we got word in December, so just last week, that our course is now going to be an SQA approved executive diploma, and it's due to be released the end of January 2021. I am so excited. Because not only do we get to develop and build teams, but we get to do it with the new world that we now live in. Motivating people and inspiring leadership, sales, employees, in this new world, that we now live in, and I'm so excited.
Amazing. Well, you can see how excited you are and how passionate you are about launching this course. So if anybody's interested and they want to know more about the launch in January, I'd encourage you to get in touch with James to have more of a conversation around that. So thank you for joining us, James. It was a delight to have you.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Always is a pleasure.
Thank you.
And now we'd like to welcome our next guest, Dave Stewart.
Good morning, all. Good morning.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm like a coiled spring. How are you?
I'm good. Just before we started, I wanted to ask where you're joining us from and what view do you have in the background today?
Okay, so I'm joining you from Auchterarder, and I'm looking out over the Ochil Hills, which is not the image you see in the background. That's Glencoe and down that way. So it's a bit of a difference. So Ochils are beautiful this morning.
Yeah, you're surrounded by hills virtually and physically.
Yeah. And could I just say, before you ask me a question, I want to pay homage to James. I've been on one of his courses, and he was also a coach for a while for me. So absolutely top bloke, highly recommend his courses, passionate guy, sign up as soon as you can.
That's what we like. That wasn't planned either on this news.
No.
Dave, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Fresh Air Leadership and how you started the business in the first place.
Okay, so it's the Fresh Air Leadership Company. We started off as a Fresh Air Learning Company, and quite a lot of people thought we were like a forestry school for young kids, when actually we were working with senior leaders and senior teams. So we rebranded last year as the Fresh Air Leadership Company. And what we do is we create what we call bespoke thinking experiences for senior leaders and teams in amazing Scottish spaces. And actually the place that we do our work is really important because it really impacts the way people engage with each other, but also the way they reflect with themselves. It's really important. And of course, Scotland is just absolutely jam-packed with magical places to do the sort of work we do.
Oh, yeah. So how did you start the business in the first place?
Well, it kind of goes back to my childhood, really, and quite often people have the things that they love doing as part of what their childhood, and actually you need to kind of reflect back to that. But I was brought up in Aberdeenshire, went on long cycle runs on my own. Mum and Dad had no idea where I was. You'd come back at tea time. I was out with my mates, idyllic sort of experiential childhood, getting out in the countryside. I then got into mountaineering, with a mountain rescue team. So again, the whole business of relationships and high performing teams. I then joined the army for 3 years, but left 30 years later, having had an amazingly challenging but fulfilling experience. And of course, the military is all about high performance teams. It's all about understanding trust, understanding relationships. So really what I'm doing today is really rooted in all the things I've done in the past. And I've now packaged it up into something that I love doing, but also adds value to our clients in a slightly different way to perhaps they're used to getting.
Yeah, and I've never actually been on one of the courses, Dave, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, it is that sort of hands-on. And since you spend quite a lot of time with people, so they maybe open up a little bit more. Is that what you find?
Yeah. I mean, we got 3 Ps. We talk about the place is really important. I've kind of touched on that. I can expand that in a minute. We've got a process of deep inquiry where actually we're not giving them content, we're not teaching them the stuff, we're asking them really big questions and not letting them off the hook until they've actually dug deep and answered it. And the 3rd P is people. So the kind of people we have are the people that will actually shift your mind a bit. So we use murder detectives, hospital consultants, mountain rescuers, search and rescue helicopter pilots, improvisation performers, special forces, the sort of people who come from a really high consequence background who will maybe put your challenges into a kind of different perspective. And just spending a little time with those kind of people in those amazing places and those people asking those kind of really deep questions, if your mind doesn't shift, you're probably brain dead. Okay, so that's the process, the 3 Ps.
If your mind doesn't shift, you're brain dead. I like that. So you've continued driving on through this tumultuous year, and you've got some dates in the diary for your Friday Fresh Air business walks. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so we've got a number of offers on at Christmas. We do a whole bunch of things from business walks to outdoor workshops to what we call decelerators, which some people call retreats, but they're slightly different. And we've got leadership treks. What we're doing from monthly from now on is we're going to do these Fresh Air leadership business walks, and they're free, and we're going to run them in and around the edges of the central belt. So the first one in January, we're going to be doing the Pentlands, then we're off down to the southwestern Largs, then we're off up to the Ochils, and we're across the Loch Lomond, then we're into the Fife. So we're all over the central belt, and really it's an opportunity for people to reconnect at a human level, get off Zoom in a sense, get away from the office, get away from home, and sort of enter into that what we're calling the 4th workspace, which is the outdoors, which is COVID safe and really creative. So human reconnection in the outdoors with real people talking about anything. They can have a laugh, they can have a lightweight chat, or they can talk about Brexit, Indie Ref, COVID, whatever they like. So it's just an opportunity to reconnect with each other.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think reconnecting with each other is a good thing. Just seeing people out in the open, I think, is going to be quite a different experience for a lot of us. And we'll be including all the details for that in the description of this video. If you're interested, you can get in touch with Dave there. Dave, I also wanted to ask you, with people this Christmas only really being able to meet up outside, I was wondering if you had any suggestions of walks or routes that people can venture on this Christmas break, or topics of conversation you find would be good amongst family members who haven't seen each other in a while, perhaps? Okay, so I mean, obviously the Scotland is jam-packed full of walks people can do, and a really good website for people to connect to, other than mine, obviously, is say Walk Highlands.
So even though it's Walk Highlands, it's got fantastic walking routes throughout Scotland. So just check that out, and that'd be routes from everything from a couple of kilometres to long distance paths. So that's a great resource to use. In terms of topics for people to talk about, ask a question that has got a really positive tone to it. Okay. Say, what's the best thing that's happened to you this year? Okay, so people, that will light up the really creative side of people's brains, and they'll come out with all the really things that they've been dying to say. If you just say, how are you? Well, you're going to get a pretty brain dead kind of response, to use that term again. So ask a question with a real positive intent to it. What's the best thing that's happened to you this week? Okay, so there we are. I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, I'll keep that one in mind.
Okay.
And I suppose the final thing is, apart from your Friday walks, what else has 2021 got planned for the Fresh Air Leadership Company?
So we've got a whole bunch of stuff on the shelf in terms of treks and decelerators. We're also doing a soft launch for a thing called Fresh Air Scotland, which is a bit like Fresh Air Leadership, but without the leadership bit. So it's about, we're going to have created and curated experiences on boots, bikes and boats all around the amazing places in Scotland, with a real emphasis on staycations and wellness. So that's going to be the new angle for 2021. Really excited about that.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to learning more about that, actually. That's something I'm quite interested in. But for now, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us, Dave, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you in the new year.
Thank you, and happy Christmas, everybody. Cheerio, bye.
Thank you very much.
Great to have both James and Dave join us today. They join a collection of members we've had on our show, 9 previous shows. I can't believe it's actually our 10th show, so that rounds up 2020 nicely.
Yeah, it will be the last episode of 2020, but we'll be back on your screens in January, so don't worry. So to end the year, we'd like to leave you off with a Christmas card from Scottish Business Network.